Alien Earth series, 8 more days. You know what the crazy thing is about that? We're gonna get into some of that as well. Will Ray, what's going on? The crazy thing is, right? Have y'all noticed how much alien shit they've been putting in front of y'all lately? That's not, by coincidence. That's by design. It's social engineering and programming. It's pretty much social programming for people. They're literally doing beta testing to your mind right in front of you, if you haven't noticed. Everything that you see right now is part of this simulation. Now, of course, what I mean by that, like I said, if you don't remember the movie Roddy Piper did, They Live, right? For example, where he took the shades off. When he had the shades off, he saw regular human beings, right? And some people. When he put the shades on, he could see the monsters that they were. When he took the shades off, he saw regular billboards and marketing. He put them on, and he would see buy, sell, must buy, must sell. He saw what it really is. Okay? So that's pretty much what is going on now, is that there are a lot of people that are awakened, and there are a lot of people that are still going to be asleep, unfortunately, right? We are now in that awakened era. Well, I mean, I gotta hydrate sometimes. We are now in that awakened era. And I'm aware, what's that movie called again? They Live. It's called They Live. If I make it very, very enlightening movie. What's the trailer right here? Okay, yeah.
Morning, sweat. Taste test, sweat. Go time, grow.
I'll do the trailer for you real quick. And say it was just one of those very enlightening movies from back in the day. Very enlightening movie from back in the day.
What do these things want, and why are they here?
You still don't get it, do you, boy?
They have recruited the rich and the powerful.
They're running the whole show.
Wake up! They're all about you, all around you. Blinded us to the truth.
Take a look.
They are safe as long as they are not discovered.
I don't know what they are or where they came from, but we gotta stop them. Stay away from me. Put these on. They have us. Look at them. They're everywhere. Our owners.
We have no other choice.
I don't like this one bit.
Leave it alone, man. It ain't none of my business. Ain't none of yours.
We have been lulled into a trance.
Listen to what I'm saying to you. We're in trouble. The whole world's in trouble. Control us! You're sending some kind of signals out of TV sets.
I've got one that can see.
Mama don't like tattletale. Now we start spilling some blood. Let's go!
Push a button.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
That's how long John Carpenter been around making films. Since I was born. This came out the year I was born. So as you can see, when he put the shades on, he saw what it really was. That it said obey, but it's just the marketing for we're creating the transparent computer environment. This is the start of the computer. Cell, marry and reproduce. The crazy thing is he's seeing different phrases that they literally used to have programmed inside of the MK Ultra that they have, well, not used to. Inside of majority of TVs, inside the LED, they have some type of MK Ultra, right? But it's a very small wave of it. But what it does is these particular words are programmed into what you see. So the different commercials that come on, they're not for just any old reason. Notice how even someone said, I forgot the name of the actor, Matthew McConaughey. He was in one of the food commercials for, I believe, football, and he was even just lightly talking about how we're socially programmed to buy food during these sports events, right? So there's different things inside of the MK Ultra waves, inside of your TVs and different screens that pretty much have these different words that are programmed into your mind. Like he just saw obey, marry and produce. Marry and reproduce. There's buy, there's sell. Like I said, there's different things that you can see that pretty much are just made to be programmed into our minds already. Look at that. Stay asleep. No thoughts. Marry and reproduce again. All these different words that are socially programmed into your mind. And do not question authority. Watch TV. No imagination.
What's your problem?
So he sees a regular man when he takes the shades off, but when he put the shades back on, he saw the monster that he actually was, which was actually code for reptilian in this.
I said, what's your problem? How are you today, sir? Okay, how's it going? Fine, thanks.
Notice how the other gentleman with his shades on was a regular person. But the other gentleman is not.
Thank you, sir.
And he was starting to notice that he could see him. Pretty damn dope movie, though. Pretty damn dope movie. Let me read the chat. It just now caught up. Roddy Piper said he didn't know who John Carpenter was even who John Carpenter even was. When he was at dinner, someone had to tell him why this person is important for him. Interesting. That's the ill thing about that would be, John Carpenter was, I believe, just starting to make films around that time. And Roddy Piper was also very new to acting in general. So it's kind of cool that the fact that he didn't even know the director, and the director, of course, probably knew who he was just by being a wrestling fan, and them just having that little interaction there. I wish I would have been able to see that. I wish I would have been able to see that right there. No, I ain't going to my Diddy party stuck in my head. Talk about gassy thrust. Yeah, that I had came across that just yesterday. That was the crazy part. Cause I was gonna pod yesterday. I was gonna pod last night, and when I got a little too tired, and I have to do a overtime shift today and tomorrow, so I had to get a little rest for that. But that was pretty cool when I found out. I was like, yo, that sounds just like King Von. That don't sound like AI did, and it says AI, but that didn't sound like AI. That's the crazy part. It sounds just like King Von. It sounds exactly like King Von, like how it's mixed. There's a reason why Scientologists are allowed to run wild in our entertainment world. One of these days, can we deep dive on Ryan Coogler? Okay. I had no idea he directed Black Panther Center. Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah, we can definitely look into him. I'll look into some things and see what I find. I'll definitely do that as well. I will definitely do that as well. Speaking of being able to see the reptilians, though, let me see if putting my mic up will adjust things a little bit. Okay, that actually does a little bit better. That sounds a little better too. So speaking of which, right, as you can see here, while I was looking up some things that I had in my archive already, mental archive anyway, and there was we're gonna start here because I feel like it's more necessary to start on this level, especially if you're not new to the chat. It's best we start on this level where we already have sort of elevated ourselves to, as far as like what we've been looking over and things like that. That was one of the main reasons why I said it's best that you look at the last pod before you even engage in this one, right? Because it'll start to refresh your memory of the things that, because I went over, I don't know if I went over CERN, but I know I went over Project Bluebeam, I do believe, in the last pod, because the death of Babylon, right? That's pretty much what was being conveyed by Beyonce on the stage. That whole piece that she did on the Jumbotron, people were creeped out about, but it was because they didn't understand it. I understood it fully, and that's why I wanted to present it to everybody as far as what the death of Babylon even was about. It's pretty much saying the death of America. And then it made me start looking up different things as far as the death of America goes, and how Iran pretty much has been chanting that shit for a decade, damn near, because of Donald Trump. And they do not like what he represents, and they know the same thing that I've come to realize, which is he is the one that is going to bring in the new era of things, and the new era of things is not necessarily a good one for a lot of people. He literally is I forgot what they called him. I forgot exactly what they called him now, but he's pretty much going to be the usher into the new world order era. That's pretty much what Trump's role is right now. He's ushering in the new world order right in front of us. And I don't want people to be, especially if you watch my channel and are here, I don't want you to be surprised by that. I don't want you to be surprised by that, because it's very important that we understand that things are going to get a little bit different in these next couple of months even. It said in the scriptures of Project Bluebeam that there was the air show in 2025. Now we're going to look at what Harvard has been uncovering and NASA has been uncovering. It's starting to all of a sudden just hit all the social media, and I'm like, oh, that's not by accident. It's not by accident that they're telling you that a spaceship is coming. That's not something that's not by accident now. If you, like I said, if you've been listening to the channel before, you know I've been preaching before about, they are going to start putting Project Bluebeam in y'all head soon. There's going to be different forms of it, and they're going to start telling y'all real soon that, aliens is coming, aliens is coming, aliens is coming, aliens is here. We've been studying aliens. You pretty much have been just hearing it every fucking day. Emil Mendez, what's going on? It's been a minute. Forgive me, I've been going through. Hey, we all have been, man. We all have been, man. We all do. We all do. God bless you, though, brother. God bless you, and prayers to you, though, brother. I am a testament to that. I am a living testament to that, what you're talking about, sir. Trust me. So prayers up in the chat for Emil Mendez. Hope all is well, brother. Hope all is well. They have been preaching to the choir to you guys about what's going to be coming soon. So let's at least start there, because like I said, I stumbled upon these little videos that are very similar to, like I said, what I was referring to, as far as we should be able to notice these little things now that we can see with these people. Like at this point, our shades.
And this happened 3 different times, bro. That was a record raindrop. That was a record water drop on a state.
Now, you've been on this channel long enough to know what that means when a person starts doing that on camera. It ain't because the feed fucking up.
And it wasn't even close.
The reason why it ain't the feed fucking up is because if you notice, the microphone is not glitching. He is.
And shortly thereafter, we dealt with the threat of another hurricane and then destructive wildfires along the west coast in California and other.
Now, of course, that part is a little edited in, the little background music that you hear right now. But he's only putting that in because he's trying to let you know that Trump is not human. The simulation that you see in front of you is what they want you to see him as. That's why I showed you again, they live, because that's no different than what we have right now. Exactly. That's exactly what I'm alluding to, Emil. They're not hiding this shit anymore. They are not hiding who they are anymore. That's why they're telling you the aliens are coming. They're already here. There are some that are already here. What you want to see a picture of what he actually is? And have proof to back that up. So this is a simulation of what a draconian is, and I showed you guys this picture before when we went over Iron Sky and the other side of the moon, where they were harvesting souls. So what you are seeing glitching behind what the glitch is this. That is behind the glitch. That is a draconian. Now, as you see here, what it says, right? Draconian, right? I had found something back in my archives when I started to delete some things, and I said, oh, this was posted on the news.
Time for us to play chess, not checkers.
Reimagining of our entire system of government and who runs it in Donald Trump's image and vision. The mission statement for Project 2025 is a plan assembled by the Heritage Foundation.
What does that say there? What does that say there? That's it. Oh, it's really right here in front of us. That's not by accident. That's not by accident that's there. So again, shit, you can see it in her face. A little bit. I'm joking on that part. But again, Trump allies prepare draconian Project 2025. Again, we are living in a simulation. People are literally been doing studies on that recently. That we are in an actual simulation here on Earth. A lot of shit that we got in front of us just ain't real. Not saying what I'm doing right now, the streaming this shit ain't, but a lot of shit that we think is real, a lot of people that we would perceive to be, that we see on TV is real. They ain't. They're not. That's the point that I'm trying to get across to y'all tonight. If it's anything that I get across tonight, it's going to be that. That's why I had to prepare myself and say, I'm going to that length to this evening. We going that length. Because I'm not the only person that, has not only thought about this, but there's someone that literally seen Jeffrey Epstein turn into one. I'm not bullshitting about that part. This is an actual Epstein survivor interview right here, for example, we're going to look at. This woman here, I think her name is Julian Bryant.
They were all there. Jeffrey Epstein, Bill Clinton, Kevin Spacey, Chris Tucker. And I couldn't move. I was like paralyzed and I was naked and I couldn't move. I couldn't talk. So he sort of used to see how far he could sort of push people, I guess. Sorry, I get anxious about this. Yeah. When we were taken to his bedroom, it was always pitch dark and ice cold. Waking up in a laboratory with 6 people in hazmat suits around me.
How do you feel about the Trump administration's statements this week about Epstein.
I think it's horrific, actually, especially when Trump gained presidency promising the list. He told me he worked with CIA. He told me he had my family's name on a list.
It was the government doing it, so you can't really get the government to tell on itself.
A lot of people want to judge and make money because I was already scouted when I was 14 years old to do modeling, but my mum wouldn't let me do it. So this was when I was 20 years old. I've been scouted again, and I eventually started modeling. And then just to make money, of course, I really wanted to be a therapist and I wanted to help people. And then one night I was...
You did see this Fantanos. This was bugged out. This was bugged out, wasn't it, though? This was pretty bugged out, this interview. Wait till y'all hear the stuff that this lady saw, yo.
Out with a friend of mine, and we met a girl called Naja Hill. She we didn't know who she was at the time. Of course, she was just a sort of, no one really does. But, apparently now she works for Fox News. But she approached a friend of mine and I and said that her friend Epstein was here, Jeffrey Epstein, and he was with the President of America, the ex-president Bill Clinton. She said he was here with Bill Clinton and Kevin Spacey, and he owned Victoria's Secret with Leslie Wexner. And he said she said it would really help my modeling career to meet them. So, of course, I was like, I wanted to meet them because it seemed like the most legitimate opportunity, It seemed like a dream come true, really. I'd always been hoping that I would, be able to do something with my life, and just with the modeling models always hope for like their lucky break. We went from the restaurant bar to the restaurant where they were having dinner, and they were all there. Jeffrey Epstein, Bill Clinton, Kevin Spacey, Chris Tucker. They were having dinner with a few government officials. I'm sorry about my dogs in the background, but everyone understands protection dogs. Gotta have them,
Yes.
So the government officials didn't stand up and meet us, but Bill Clinton, Kevin Spacey, Chris Tucker, and Jeffrey Epstein, they all stood up and shook my hand. And I was very starstruck, and I didn't know who Jeffrey Epstein was at the time. Obviously, no one did. I just thought, oh, it's some man who sort of runs the world, King of America, is what I was told, with the president and all these other people.
Even more interesting to that, right? So notice how she paints, same as another model victim, Maria Farmer. They chose models at art galleries. Laundering is more ways than one. So notice how that was also in Blink Twice, right? They met at art galleries. I was very taken back by how much detail I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on her damn name now. Zoe Hendricks. I'm trying to think of the director name now, but give me 1 second. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank now on her name now. Is it Zoe Hendricks? What the heck? What is this damn girl name now? What is this damn girl name now? Not Jimi Hendrix. What name am I trying to think of, y'all? I don't know why I can't think of her name now. Zoe Kravitz. I had Zoe in my head. Thank you, Zoe Kravitz. The movie that Zoe Kravitz directed, Blink Twice, was pretty much a direct correlation to the Epstein Island. A direct correlation when you hear about the victims and the things that they went through and seen and what happened to them. Everything is a direct correlation from Epstein Island. And the crazy thing is how the movie ended is happening, almost coming to fruition right now. Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen Blink Twice, at the end of the movie, a lady takes over and starts building a whole resort out of this whole thing. So now you see them saying what? We're doing renovations and making Epstein Island a resort now. I'm like, what? Straight out of the movie. Yeah, the world is a stage ran by a bunch of actors, just a bunch of dummies being controlled by ventriloquists. Very true. Very true. Very true.
You know, and I was just like starstruck because I just turned 20 years old. I was young, and I'd never met any celebrities in my life. And when Bill Clinton shook my hand, like he just held onto my hand and then he went like this and he started talking to someone else and he held onto my hand for like at least a minute and just carried on talking to them for ages and ages. And after like 1 minute, he looked at me again and he said, "Nice to meet you." And I was like, stop, like, you know, it was scary having this man holding onto my hand for so long. But I didn't know what to do. You know, I was just like overwhelmed. And also I really, you know, back in the day, we really trusted in people in positions of power. You know, we didn't know as much as we do now about how dodgy they really are. We really
And right
thought
off
that they
the
were
bat,
people.
if I can just make one comment right off the bat,
that
that already, you know, to me that communicates that he is not at all concerned with your boundaries. You know, to hold on to you as if you have nowhere else to move around the room or anyone else to meet. It seemed like he was already crossing boundaries with you because he was likely very comfortable doing it with other women and girls before you. Just that small thing, you know?
Yeah, it was so weird. Like, and now with people saying about clones and everything, I'm almost wondering if it was a clone. Sorry. I'm sorry.
Maybe.
I'm sorry. Sometimes we just have to laugh to like get over trauma. And if I laugh, it's not because I think this is funny. It's because, you know, just because I was sexually molested does not mean I can never laugh again. You know, I did some video. You know what I mean? And I actually want to touch on that. Yes.
You deserve to laugh more. You know, you deserve.
She can't even help it. That's the crazy part.
A life of laughter and happiness now after everything.
She can't help but the chain smoke right now because of the trauma she had to think about.
So sorry, I didn't want to interrupt your story. So where you were going from,
but it's an important thing for all survivors of abuse. Just because people have been abused doesn't mean they're never allowed to be happy or laugh ever again.
Right.
You know. And so anyway, after we left there, then Naja Hill phoned me the next day and she said Epstein really thought you have a lot of potential for modeling and he'd like to see your modeling book. Will you please bring it to the hotel where they're staying for a modeling casting? But before the modeling casting, they're going to be doing a speech at a university in Cape Town. So I was like, oh my God, yeah, of course, you know. So I got in my car, I had a little city Golf, and I drove there and then I got in they had like buses, but like small mini buses, and I got in the bus with them and went and watched Clinton's speech. And, you know, Kevin Spacey sat in front of me in the hall. It was a very, like, basic hall. It was not the kind of place you'd imagine to see a president giving a speech. It was very basic. And there were a lot of students around. And Kevin Spacey sat there with the handheld device just filming everyone. Like, I was sitting right behind him, so he even probably got my face on the film. He was filming like this around the whole hall of all the students, you know. And I don't know why. At the time, I just thought, okay, he's, you know, doing a bit of research on Africa and they're filming for their speech. But, you know, it is very strange that he was filming everyone, especially considering the allegations that have happened to Kevin Spacey all these years later. You know, 12 people.
And it always seems to be the same names that come up, you know. You are far from the first person to talk about Kevin Spacey in this context, Bill Clinton in this context, you know. There seems to be a very just out there and known client list in many ways, which is why it's so horrible, but keep going.
I got on the airplane, he patted the chair next to him like this, and I went and I sat there, and then when the plane took off, he started touching me in between my legs, and I don't want to talk about this because that just freaks me out. It stresses me out a lot and puts me into panic, because then I knew that they were going to try kill me if I didn't comply, and my name was not on that flight log. My name was on many other flight logs, but they left my name off that flight log. Sorry, can I have a cigarette break? And you ask me any other questions from here. Sorry.
Yeah, 100%. You're fine. You're fine. And again, this is why, you know, before we started, I said any topics that we don't want to talk about, I'm down to not talk about them. And, certain details are yours and yours alone. So,
Well, I'm happy. I will talk about everything, but it's just like
yeah,
just that specific time in my life. It's like it was like very very frightening.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
it's easier to yeah, and then you tell me any other questions, and I'll keep going.
Yeah. I know that Epstein had many locations that his operation was, happening at. There's the island that most people know about. He had a place in Florida. He had a ranch in New Mexico. I guess we can start with just the most known location. What was your experience at the actual island?
Well, Blair, they actually took me to all the properties. I was taken to New York, Caribbean, Palm Beach, Paris, and New Mexico. They took me to all of those places. So we can definitely touch on, to speak about each one. The Caribbean, arriving there was very isolated, of course, and they had our passports, and we couldn't really get away. And the first day when I arrived there, because when they took me from New York, so we would land on, I don't know exactly which island it was. It was obviously St. Martin's or St. Bart's. I think it was St. Martin's, but I'm not sure. And then a helicopter would take us from there to the island. And when we were on the island, what would happen is we'd just be called to his bedroom, like in the day. We were never called there in the night, which I think it's, like people think there was like alcohol and drugs. There was nothing like that. Even as a smoker of cigarettes, I had to smoke far away from everyone. I never saw anyone drinking alcohol on the island ever. I never ever witnessed one person drink alcohol. But we'd be called to his bedroom like 3 times a day. And on the first day, it was just me. And then the next day, like another girl was brought in. And then she started giving him a blowjob in front of me when we were watching a movie. But I just ran away because I got such a fright. So he sort of used to see how far he could sort of push people, I guess. Sorry, I get anxious about this.
Yeah.
But, when we were taken to his bedroom, it was always pitch dark and ice cold. The temperature in there was ice cold. And it was like pitch dark. And, and then he used to like force orgasms from, like, that's what he did to me. I don't know what he did to other people. And, his penis was actually very small. Sorry to bring this up, but, it was like the size of a mini lighter. It was very, just frightening, it just really messed with my mind, to be honest. Like a lot of people want to judge girls who are...
That's another thing, right? It sounds like they... Oh, now I think I got the mic back right now. It sounds like they didn't even... It sounds like they don't even remember being drugged. If you notice, they're like, oh, you would think it would be a lot of alcohol and drugs and whatnot, smoking or whatnot. They don't even remember being drugged. That's the wild part.
Taken there and stuff, but they don't know what it's like being kidnapped by the most evil people in the world. And people want to say I was a prostitute. I was never a prostitute. I've never been offered money for sex. I mean, I had someone try to marry me and plonk a 4 million rand, like a $400,000 diamond on my finger, and I told them, no, thanks, I don't want it. I'm not a prostitute, and I want people to understand that.
Do you keep in touch with any of the other victims? Because I think what's lost with the Epstein story is, we hear a lot from different politicians, whether they're using the topic to, be elected. A lot of them use it in their campaigns, and then they get in and they flip, which has been very disappointing. And we hear people talking about the people who may be on this client list, but, there are over, if I'm not mistaken, over 1,000 known victims of the operation. And so they aren't speaking out, and you can see the stakes, the high stakes. Unfortunately, the lovely woman, Virginia, who came forward and has been one of the more known victims, she passed away recently after posting that she wasn't suicidal. And then lo and behold, God rest her soul, she gets hit by a truck.
Virginia and I used to speak, but that was a lie. Virginia and I used to speak. We've done many video calls, much like I'm speaking with you now. I've spoken to her. We were on the phone together. But then about 2 years ago, I was told, she messaged me and she said that she's not going to be on her phone anymore and I must get in touch with her through her husband's email address. But, we sent a few emails.
That already told you right there. That tells you right there. Virginia knew she was about to get killed. She already knew. That's why she went on Twitter not too long before that and said, hey, if something happens to me, I am not suicidal. They murdered me. Eros 4000, what's good? What's goody? Mini lighter in the Tootsie Roll. They can easily get into these victims' computers. Just saying, I wouldn't trust anyone in Hollywood with the podcast. Very true. Very, very true.
Back and forth, and then suddenly she just sort of like slowly, I didn't hear from her anymore. And I can also understand why with, she was being inundated, I'm sure, with people wanting to ask her questions and the whole thing, and also, I think she ended up having to see put on pills, as what I've heard, a lot of people who go through tremendous stress. When I got back from Epstein, I was put on 3 tranquilizers a day. I understand it. I don't do any pills anymore. This was 20 years ago. They put me on 3 tranquilizers a day. That's why I'm also very anti-pharmaceuticals and things. But, I was in touch with, I'm still speaking to Maria Farmer, thank goodness. She's an amazing woman. Sarah Ransom and I used to speak, but not anymore. There have been some strange things going on with a lot of I used to speak to even like Michelle Lecarte. I've spoken to quite a lot of the victims over the years, but everyone's sort of numbers have changed and people have gone quiet, and it's just, I've spoken to Annie Farmer as well. She's an amazing woman. Only Maria and Annie are the only ones who I'm still in touch with.
How do you feel about the Trump administration's statements this week about Epstein and the supposed client list? What are your thoughts on how our current government is handling it?
I think it's horrific, actually, especially when Trump gained presidency promising the list. And then now he's like, oh, why are we still talking about that guy? It's like, how stupid do they think we are? You know, what I want to say to Trump is much like he said to others on The Apprentice, you're fired. Well, he should be fired. And Pam Bondi, well, hasn't Kash Patel and Bongini, apparently they're going to retire. I mean, not retire. They're going to resign. Yeah, well, they should. I mean, and apparently 2,000 people who work for NASA also resigned in the past week.
That's interesting. From NASA?
Yeah, they're saying it's because of pay cuts. Yeah, look it up online. They say it's because of pay cuts. I don't think so. Yeah, 2,000 of the senior people at NASA are apparently resigning. The FBI are resigning. Why?
Right. I completely agree with you. I think it's been so disappointing is an understatement. I think it's very insulting. Specifically the way that Trump spoke about it. Are you still talking about this guy? As if there's something inappropriate or strange or incorrect about inquiring about justice for you and these other victims, and to know the truth about the people running this world. For me, I've always, known that he was connected to Epstein, as so many powerful people are. But this week has really solidified that even if he is not, someone who has committed crimes through Jeffrey Epstein, he definitely is someone who is too ashamed of whatever relation they had being outed. And it's just really, really insane to be able to say that we live in a country that is covering up for pedophiles. But sadly, actually, it's not that insane, because this has been going on forever. So it's just more proof that we really can't vote ourselves out of this, situation. I don't think there is a political solution for this. I think there's only, my personal opinion, a spiritual solution to this. And, until we get it together as a society, I just don't know what's going to be the future of this. But you're absolutely justified. That sounds fantastic. I in my life, I strange spiritual reason for why they were doing so many evil things on this island and other locations. What do you know, or what did you experience related to their occult beliefs or spiritual beliefs that might differ from what people typically think of as, you know, regular belief systems or religions to have?
Well, you see, a lot was hidden from us when we were there, and but you know, over the years, after everything that's happened, obviously I never spoke about what happened. I couldn't even tell my family about what had happened. But when Epstein died and reporters started contacting me, I was given more time to sort of process, you know, the trauma. It was like, you know, when you just so petrified that you just compartmentalize it, you put it away, and you keep going, like in a frantic, you know, I realized I've been in a sort of frantic trauma ever since then. But, you know, when they gave me the settlement money, I had time to sort of step off the hamster wheel of life. And I wanted to figure out for myself what happened. Because, you know, of all the things that
I don't want you to forget what you're saying, but you just brushed past something very important, and I think people need to know about your story, is that you received $1 million, if I'm not mistaken, settlement over this. And so anybody who wants to doubt your story or aspects of your story, you have been paid out for this, and thank God. But, you know,
I got 2 settlements, in fact, you know, one from the Epstein estate and also one from JP Morgan. So, you know, the one was $900,000 from the Epstein estate.
Wow.
And then the JP Morgan had to pay out $1 million.
Yeah.
But
which is further proof that Epstein's accounts are still open. JP Morgan actually runs the Epstein estate and the accounts. Interesting, huh?
You know, apparently there was no human trafficking going on. But they paid that money because of human trafficking. They paid $290 million to the victims for human trafficking.
Right.
Which shows you that they're doing something else. And that's what...
Isn't that interesting? Literally, it was for human trafficking, but it wasn't about human trafficking. Regular Freemason talk for, we're going to admit it, but we're going to talk around it so it's hiding in plain sight that what we're telling you is the truth.
We're getting to here is that these people are up to a lot more. And when I had time to sort of learn to breathe again, and, you know, I saw therapists, you know, my brother helped pay for me to see therapists, and an ex-boyfriend helped. You know, I've had a lot of amazing people help me through the way, which I think a lot of victims haven't had. Sorry, and you know, I just started doing more research just for myself. I actually wanted to just draw it, like, you know, like on the police boards, they draw a map, and they're like, in the middle you'd have Epstein, then you'd have CIA, then you'd have Clinton. You know what I mean? Those sorts of boards where you write it all. I started writing it all down to try and figure it out. And I realized there was too much to write on just a board. I did it on a piece of paper. And then I realized I had to sort of put it all in a book. So I just started writing and putting stuff together. And so basically I just started gathering information. And the more and more I figured out, the more and more frightening it got. Because, you know, when I came back from there, I didn't know they were taking my eggs or anything like that. But, you know, after being back...
your eggs?
Well, I think it's very, very likely. Because of everything that happened. And also Epstein gave me like a pelvic exam before I was sent home the one time. You know, I didn't see any girls being...
They literally were doing experiments on those women. As you heard, taking her eggs. You see how she even phrased it that way, taking her eggs. Sounds very reptilian, doesn't it?
Trafficked to other men. The only people I met there were like scientists and Michael Bay, the movie producer who made the movie The Island about cloning. I met Michael Bay there in 2004 in New Mexico. And you know, he denied being there because I did it. None of the media would ever put my story out there, which is what's obviously happened with a lot of other victims. But an amazing girl from the Daily Beast called Kate Bricklett wrote my story down, and she actually contacted Michael Bay's people, and they said no, he's never met Epstein, he's never been there, but he was there, he's lying. And I know, and I can even tell you that when I was taken to LA after all this, and he tried to take me back to his house also. So if he wants to lie further, then I'll expose him further. You know what I mean? And I'm not scared of them anyway. Well, I am a little, as we all are, but I'm like, if we're all scared of them, then when's the truth ever going to come out? Because we've got to realize there's more of us than there are of them. So anyway, going back to The Island, the movie about the cloning, it's got Scarlett Johansson in it. When I watched that movie again, I realized it looks like all the clones are escaping from a place that looks like New Mexico. So I suddenly realized maybe Michael Bay was at Epstein's property doing research. Because when I met Michael Bay and scientists there, I would see them on the tops of the properties. I'd see them there, but I'd never really see them again. I'd meet them like once or twice.
Now that's something we're going to take a look at. That's something we're going to take a look into one day. I didn't just let that slip by. There are clones apparently escaping through New Mexico. Now, there's videos going around about the borders around New Mexico, and there are different tunnels that lead to different countries. There's even a video of two Indians that literally walked from India to New Mexico. And people that stopped them said, well, how'd you get here? And they was like, we walked. And they said, what do you mean we walked from India? Like, yeah, it took us maybe a day or so. But it took you literally just a day to walk from India to here? To what? So, yeah. It's very possible what she's saying, that apparently there are clones escaping from the borders of New Mexico.
And then I'd never see the rooms they were staying in or anything, you know, and it made me realize that there's very likely something underneath there, you know, and also because I saw him turn into that thing. It's just, and the UFO that I saw, that was while Michael Bay was staying there in New Mexico when I saw that and had that flashback waking up in a laboratory. And just after after just digging and digging and digging, I realized, you know, if these bastards really do drink blood, if they really do kill children, it would make sense for them to have their own farm of humans. You know, and it's much like shows like Westworld. You know, it's possible. And just one more thing before you play. You know, in 1996, they cloned a sheep, Dolly the sheep. And they made it publicly announced it. And then guess who banned federal use of funds for human cloning? Bill Clinton banned federal funds being used for human cloning because everyone was waiting for humans to be cloned, you know. And but you know, and if they were cloning a sheep 30 years ago, God knows what they can do now, basically. And, you know, they could, like, replace their hearts, their livers. You know, like a lot of people like Paris Hilton, she's got 2 babies, but she didn't really have them. Maybe a human clone underneath had them. I mean, where's the surrogate? I'm sorry. That might be going a bit too far, but you know.
No, it's not. It's really not going too far because you're absolutely right. Anyone who thinks this sounds, you know, off the beaten path or crazy should really just do a minimal amount of research on where cloning technology was, like you said, even in the 90s. And so who would be, you know, attached to advanced cloning projects? Rich people, elite people, powerful people, you know, presidents. Like, it's not as if you're saying that the you know, car repair shop down the street doubled as a human cloning center underneath. You're saying that people who have the funds, the means, and the interest in doing all of these things were doing it. So it's 100% believable to me. And, you know, I hate that we live in a world where you have to even apologize for the truth and say, sorry if it sounds this way. And then we have a government that is bold-faced lying, and people will believe them, but people will hesitate to believe the victims when they're telling you straight out what it is. And on the topic of you seeing a UFO, we know, if you've done any research on the UFO topic, that you can't research UFOs without coming across the concept of underground bases from the military. And if you think that's crazy, that just means you haven't researched the topic of underground bases or UFOs. And so I 100%, you know, when you have an operation sealed in the protection of blackmail, it's not just, you know, you have to think, they don't just sit on this blackmail, you know, until something comes up to pull it on somebody. They have now an entire operation where a huge number of secret operations and projects and things can be taking place. Not just sex with children, not just sex with women against their
research. I've been lucky enough to be afforded the time to do the research, and unlucky enough to be kidnapped by these assholes. So, I've made it my life mission to catch them. I don't care if I die doing it, as long as I make some difference in the world. But thank you so much. Because, another thing with underground bases is Epstein's ranch is directly between Dulce Base and Roswell. So it's very much in the area where a lot of this stuff goes on.
Yes, Dulce Base. If people don't know, Dulce Base is basically just
in Roswell. You heard that. Again, if anything, they are getting ready to let people know exactly who they are on the inside for real.
Openly known at this point. There's an underground base there where there's advanced technology being tested. And I think that what people who want to be turned off by the phrase UFO, it's not just victims of the Epstein operation here that have had experiences seeing UFOs. There are millions of people across the globe, and this is a thing that goes back throughout history and throughout time. You can look at people in the 1800s, coming forward and saying that they're seeing things in the sky they don't understand. That there's a precedent for this that goes back a long time, and it's all deeply tied to advanced technology, aerospace companies, which is why it's interesting you said that NASA is having a mass resignation thing happening. And all these things go together. The occult in general is deeply tied to the UFO topic. And I don't want to go just talking about only that, but, it's important for people to know.
In Zimbabwe, there's a school where 62 children witnessed a UFO in 1994. People must look it up online.
Right. And it doesn't have to be an alien from Mars, It could be as simple as there is a portion of society that has access to technology. We don't. We know for sure the military does. What do you think the drones were? That Trump also refuses to disclose despite promising to. It's all really just in your face, and it's up to people to really fight through the kind of emotional response to shut it all down. That's what I've really come to learn about, conspiracy theories in general, is that 99.9% of the time, the only thing stopping you from just understanding the truth and seeing what's really happening in the world is sort of a trauma response that we all have to admitting to ourselves that the lie can be that big. But clearly the lie can be that big and even bigger than anyone thinks. I'm horrified by the Trump administration's response to this. And, at the end of the day, I'm not going to beat myself up too hard about being duped, because between him and Kamala Harris, there was one person promising to release the Epstein files. And in my mind, that alone, logically meant that he wasn't implicated as committing crimes. But now that he's in and he's refusing so hard, it's hard to deny that there is some involvement with him, obviously. And it's just clear as day. And again, that goes back insane.
He was an amazing guy, and he said they're doing their due diligence. They're going to be releasing the list. And I just started...
They didn't take a statement from someone who was paid out.
Trying to find the part where she...
wow. And so I see now...
She saw what she saw.
It's like, are you a Democrat? Are you...
Right.
Water and seeds. Or eggs, it would make sense to call it the butterfly tree. Water and seeds.
Mm-hmm.
They just control everyone. And, as far as the banks go, I wanted to also say, with JP Morgan, human trafficking, how they paid all that money to the victims. There's a lot of other weird stuff that goes on with JP Morgan. Apparently they had the butterfly trust with Epstein. And, because I had a blue butterfly on my diary in the year that I was taken there, and I put the butterfly on my diary before I was even taken there. And I've got a painting that I did with a butterfly and a reptile before I even met. It was weird. Then Virginia Giffey used the blue butterfly as her Twitter logo, at the time, X logo now. And Sarah Ransom has a blue butterfly tattooed on her arm. And
Sorry,
then,
that
so
dog
they
was
started
loud.
the Butterfly Trust in 2014 or 2013 to pay off victims and accomplices. It was Epstein's trust, started, and then I realized one day that the butterfly is shaped like the human hips. So if they were taking our eggs, it would make sense to call it the Butterfly Trust. Then there's also more weird stuff with JP Morgan, like they had code words of Disney princesses, like Beauty and the Beast and Snow White, and like him and Epstein were having these conversations where they were using Disney princess names. I'm still digging deeper into all that.
Well, they
I'm
love
trying
Disney.
to
Funny how so.
They love
Yeah, we
Disney
do,
because
yeah.
Funny how so much. And we're gonna get into the next. The Epstein. Actually, it was another video here where, like I said, she again talks about how she saw Jeffrey Epstein as a reptilian. Let me play that real quick. But the Epstein niece is going to get into the relationship of Walt Disney. Interesting enough. Do.
Juliette Bryant, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, Owen. Thank you so much for having me on your show, and thank you to everyone for listening and for caring. It's been very frightening, everything that's been going on. I was kidnapped by Jeffrey Epstein 22 years ago. I met him when he was in Africa with Bill Clinton and Kevin Spacey and Chris Tucker. They staged a modeling casting, and I was taken to New York to model, but then quickly kidnapped to the island. It's been very, very frightening. Obviously I've been in trauma through most of my life after what happened. As we all know, they're covering a lot up. And, I've just been terribly upset, obviously, as everyone has, because they promised us the Epstein list. Trump gained presidency promising the list. And where is the list? Now they say there is no list. How dare they lie to people like this? It's not right. And it doesn't just affect the victims, it affects the public. This has affected all of us.
Real quick. So, do you remember when we looked up the different symbols of what pedophiles look for? And the butterfly was literally one of them. Like, they literally had a butterfly necklace as a symbol of what certain pedophiles look for. And it's like what they're pretty much looking for in their own club. Pretty much. It's like, I should say, there are different clubs associated with different genders. Like, they have the boys club, and then they have the girls club as well. So even like she said, the little code names were different things that these pedophiles and the groups were using pretty much to find these little girls as well.
They lie to people like this. It's not right. And it doesn't just affect the victims, it affects the public. This has affected all of us. As I've spoken about recently, I saw him shapeshift into something else in front of my eyes. It looked like a sort of reptilian creature, like when I was in the bedroom, when he took me there. And what I'm starting to realize is it was probably like an alien creature. And it's hard talking about this because a lot of people think it's crazy. And I would also think it was crazy. But unfortunately, I saw it. And also in New Mexico, I saw a UFO there. And then I woke up in a laboratory with people working on me, 6 people in hazmat suits, or I don't even know if they were people.
Did you get drugged?
And I don't actually know. They didn't allow any alcohol or drugs there, but they could have.
What did I tell you? They didn't even know if they were drugged or not.
Drugged me. Epstein shapeshifted in front of me. It's very hard to understand if you haven't seen it. But I saw it. I want to be lie detected on this. But I've never seen anyone else turn into anything like that. And it happened. It was like a weird hologram, and it had like big black eyes. If you look back through ancient history, you'll notice there are a lot of dragons. They only used to draw and depict what was real.
Which would make sense. They're showing different ancient hieroglyphics, which would make sense in Menendez. A monarch butterfly usually means MK Ultra.
Also, there's this article joking about Bush, Clinton, and the Queen all being reptiles. Why do Hillary Clinton and Prince Andrew apparently not sweat? What about Bieber, Adele, and Lady Gaga apparently all shapeshifting?
We actually had covered that one on the pod. We literally covered the Justin Bieber one here on the pod, where people were going crazy in the airport because they saw Justin Bieber shapeshift into a reptilian. And I said, well, I guess they're new to this particular topic, maybe.
Hundreds of Justin Bieber fans say they witnessed the singer shapeshift into a reptilian while greeting them at Perth Airport. One witness said that all hell broke loose in the airport after Justin Bieber shapeshifted in front of his fans. She claims,
see, the crazy thing is that gets dismissed as, oh, they're just screaming because it's Justin Bieber. No, they're screaming because they saw some shit they didn't think they was going to see.
There were girls hiding in the toilets crying, and guys were running for the exits, jumping in taxis to get the hell out of there. Perth Now briefly published an article about the incident, featuring multiple interviews with witnesses. However, within an hour of publication, the article was mysteriously taken offline and scrubbed from the internet, but not before alert readers captured screenshots of the article and proof that it appeared on Google. The Perth Now article quoted witnesses who say they saw Bieber with eyes with a black stripe down the middle and big scaly claws that were lashing out angrily. Despite the removal of the article from the internet, the reptilian sightings continued the next morning. A local skater told reporters that Bieber was hanging around with this big guy, his bodyguard I guess, and we were just staring because he kept turning into a huge reptile. His bodyguard was pointing at us, shouting that he'd kick our teeth in if we didn't put our phones away. There were multiple accounts of seeing Bieber with greenish-brown claws, while others claimed to have seen the singer in full female reptilian form. One fan described the reptilian version of Bieber as really big, like way over 6 foot, slitty little reptilian eyes, curves, and covered in scales. Experts claim that Bieber belongs to the Babylonian Brotherhood, a group of shape-shifting reptilian humanoids determined to control the world and usher in the New World Order.
Adele shapeshifted into an 8-foot reptilian backstage at Auckland's Mount Smart Stadium after the final concert of her world tour, according to shocked fans and a reporter from the New Zealand Herald. The 10 super fans, invited backstage to meet Adele after her final New Zealand show, got more than they bargained for when the singer shapeshifted into a massive, at least 8 or 9 feet tall, powerfully built reptilian with greenish-gray scales, to quote one of the witnesses. Jim Joint, reporting for the New Zealand Herald, wrote that the superfans told him Adele had flickering reptile eyes with a black stripe down the middle and scaly horns and protrusions all over her body. She looked shocked, like she wasn't prepared for the change, a witness told the Herald. Adele fan Jessie Warren also told the Herald that Adele said the shape-shifting is crippling her and she can't go on until she learns to stop the reptile inside herself from manifesting itself in public. Adele said she won't be able to perform live or tour again until she learns to control the shape-shifting. Editor's note: the screenshots from the New Zealand Herald newspaper article were sent to us by Jessie Warren. an Adele fan who says she was invited backstage. According to Jess, the NZ Herald deleted the article shortly after publication. Warning readers to hold onto their hats, the New Zealand Herald writer claims that a number of fans who were invited backstage to meet Adele witnessed the British singer shapeshift into a giant lizard and then apologize for scaring them, explaining that she meant no harm and is a good reptilian. The New Zealand Herald has not responded to questions asking why they deleted the article from their website.
I painted Epstein as a reptile in 2019, and Maria Farmer, another victim, painted him as a reptile in 2020. Others have had similar experiences. What about the Simpsons prediction? Wasn't the Simpsons man on Epstein's airplane?
America, take a good look at your beloved candidates. They're nothing but hideous space reptiles.
As Tucker Carlson recently said, maybe we really are in a spiritual war.
That we are being acted on by spiritual forces that we cannot see, that there is a war going on all around us, out of our sight, not perceived by our senses most of the time, between good and evil.
What do you mean by
time to wake
the
up.
things that you had to unpack that happened to you? Explain, just give me some idea of what that is.
Well, you know, like when I was taken there the first time, I saw him literally turn into something else in front of my eyes. Like he shapeshifted in the bedroom. It was freaky. And, you know, I can understand a lot of people would think, okay, this girl's a bit bonkers, or if she was on drugs, but I wasn't on drugs and I'm not bonkers. You know, I saw this and I only saw it once. It was, 22 years ago. He suddenly turned it into like a sort of dragon alien creature with huge black eyes. And it was and when I was taken in the bedroom with him that this happened, and David Icke speaks about all this stuff. That's actually how I first spoke about it publicly, because, I did an interview with Richard Willett from Iconic, and he's a great guy. He's almost like Sherlock Holmes. He's, he does a lot of research, and he asked me the leading questions, about the book I wrote, why is it called The Dragon, the Apple and the Butterfly, and then I had to tell him because I saw Epstein turn into something. It only happened once, but it's such a vivid thing in my mind because it just, it was very frightening. His head just went really big, and then he had these big black eyes, and it was almost like an alien, devil-looking sort of thing with horns, and it just really, I got, that's another reason why I was, of course, petrified.
Sure, of course. Listen, I mean, we've got lots of people who are extremely suspicious about the way that he is supposed to have died. Nobody really knows. There are still reports that he may have escaped, he may have got out, he may still be alive. What did you feel when you heard the news that he had died? And what do you think around, all of these suspicious circumstances that have to do with his death? Well, I just couldn't almost believe it when he died, because I thought that he sort of ran the world, and I couldn't believe that, it was just quite a shock. And also with regards to seeing the shapeshifting, I just wanted to bring up also that, Kathy O'Brien has spoken about this, because she was a MK Ultra sex slave apparently within the Bush administration, and also Jeanette Archer is another person who's spoken about shapeshifting. Yeah.
Also, how the Simpsons predicts things. The Simpsons also, there's one where they go and they pull the mask off the president's heads and they're suddenly reptiles. There's a lot of weird stuff around all of that.
Yeah.
But sorry, what was that? The question?
No, so his death.
I
mean, did you find all of that suspicious?
Yeah, well, it was just, it was just very, very, just what was going on. It was just very weird, And also in New Mexico, I saw a UFO in the sky there, and that's when Michael Bay was there at the same time. And then I also have a memory where I woke up in a lab, was paralyzed on a table, naked, with people with 6 people in hazmat suits standing around me, and a doctor and then she said, don't worry, everything's okay, and I was out again. And I've never had anesthetic as far as I know, so I don't really know how that works, but a friend of mine said that with anesthetic you can have weird
like we spoke about. And, it's a very difficult thing to explain because, a lot of people like wouldn't understand it, but it happened. He turned into something in front of my eyes. And, people question it and say, was I maybe drugged or something? I don't know. But the thing is, I do know that I've experimented with drugs years later, and I never ever saw anyone turn into anything ever. I obviously don't do drugs, but from the times when I slipped up and did them as a young person being stupid. But I wasn't doing any drugs there. We weren't allowed to do drugs. We weren't allowed, I'd never touched drugs. I'd actually never done a drug when I saw that. I'd maybe smoked a joint. Well, I definitely had smoked a joint, but I'd never ever touched any drug by that point in my life. And I think if I'd been drugged, I would have actually been aware of it because I would have felt weird. Another weird thing is I've seen on the one documentary that Lisa Bryant made, I saw myself walking in the background and it almost creeped me out because it almost looks like I'm sort of floating. Because it's the thing is with hypnosis and cults, what I'm starting to realize is this was more like a sort of culty thing. Yeah. Where he was trying to get hold of people, and I think that's why a lot of people won't come forward because a lot of people might have been benefiting. It was a place where you didn't come out feeling normal, to be after being around them. And I can't really explain it because I don't have the intelligence or the background, to nest. But there's some very, very clever people out there who understand things like this that would be able to understand what was going on. But it was just very, very frightening being around them, and I don't think I was drugged. When I saw him shift, I saw that, and I don't know if I was drugged, but I did see him turn into something, and it was very much there, and it was very frightening. It sort of shook my whole perception of reality and everything, and it's something I couldn't even speak about at the time because I couldn't tell my mum more about what had happened there, and it's just something I talk about, but it's something that I very much saw.
Why did you choose the title Epstein, the Dragon, the Apple, and the Butterfly? There's obviously the butterfly comes back here as well to the blue butterfly. You were talking about you've got MK Ultra kind of connotations to the butterfly with the monarch butterfly. So why did you choose that title? It's a lovely title.
Because when I was taken to the island, I saw Epstein shift in front of my eyes. It was very, very frightening, and it's just something that I had to explain to myself because I saw him turn into something. And if someone else told me this, I wouldn't believe it, but unfortunately it happened to me. So I had to look into it and try to find reasons for it to explain it.
Only thing that's only because it's on my mind right now, I have to get it off. I'm thinking Monarch, the movie Godzilla, Project Monarch, big ass reptile. I'm just thinking about shit like that.
It's not an easy thing to talk about because I can understand that a lot of people wouldn't understand it if they haven't seen it. Do you mind if I just have a puff of a cigarette? Sorry.
Yeah.
And then we keep going once.
Yeah, sure. Do another 5 minutes on top of it.
You think about it, Godzilla is literally a giant draconian reptile on the screen.
Anyway, so it's fine.
Okay, let's do it.
So was this a theory that you were familiar with before? Was this the first time you heard it? So there's no suggestion in here. This is something you weren't aware of.
No, I wasn't aware of anything like that. A few years later, my mum started actually researching David Icke, and my mum knew about the whole reptilian theory, and so then I sort of clicked what I'd seen. Because the thing is, it wasn't actually like reptilian; it was more like an alien, like dragon. And that's when I looked into the Draconians, the Draco law. Also the Order of the Dragon, the royal family are all apparently part of the Order of the Dragon. Also their descendant Vlad the Drac used to drink blood, Vlad the Impaler. So I looked into a lot of history, and it sort of, it explained. But I saw him shift into something. It only happened once. But I've never seen anyone else turn into anything like that. And it happened. It was like a weird hologram, and it had like big black eyes. And so it happened.
Big black eyes, and it wasn't quite reptilian, but it was esque.
Yeah, it was like reptilian, draconian, alien sort of thing. It was like, it wasn't like the usual reptilian pictures that they draw of people but I saw it, and it was like, and I was, when I looked at him and saw him as that, I decided to look away and look back at him. And when I looked back, it was him again.
Very similar to how, so let me just show you what I'm talking about. So look at this, right? So you see the Draconians, right? Let me just bring this up. Like I said, this is the Draconians, right? This is pretty much what she saw, right? It just made me think about it. I was like, hold up. Because it's fresh in my mind now. I'm like, when you look at Godzilla, right? He's literally a draconian, a giant draconian dinosaur, a giant draconian reptile. Better shot of him. It's literally him. Remember, she said a giant dragon version. That's what Godzilla is. And I'm thinking about his name, Godzilla, like King of the Monsters. Nothing bigger in the box office but him. He comes out, he's the biggest shit moving. It's crazy because I love Godzilla too. I can't really boycott Godzilla. But yeah, it just made me think of. I'm like, giant draconian. Like, damn it, Godzilla. The mockery of God is literally. Man, oh man. The things that you find right in front of your face, bruh. The things you find right in front of your fucking face sometimes, man. And then when Emil Mendez said it, Monarch Butterfly, and they was talking about Monarch Butterfly, I'm like, wait, Project Monarch literally is in the movie Godzilla, Project Monarch. But before I get too far off on a tangent, we'll stay the course. So, who remembers when this came out a decade ago?
Campaign signs and attack ads are par for the course in politics, but on highway signs,
it's a distraction.
It's downright dangerous. Campaign signs and attack ads are par for the course in politics, but on highway signs,
it's a distraction.
It's downright dangerous, not to mention illegal.
Traffic communications equipment, any sort of tampering with that sort of stuff is the third-degree felony, and it's punishable. We're talking prison time. So it's not something that's taken lightly by any means.
The Bernie for President and Donald Trump is a shape-shifting lizard signs appeared sometime overnight or over the holiday weekend. The signs are part of the I-30 HOV lane project, but had been powered down, meaning someone physically broke into them.
It's not something that you could do remotely or, with a cell phone or anything like that. You have to actually be there and get in there and power it up and get in there and break the password.
Ryan LaFontaine of TxDOT's Dallas district says the hacked signs can not only distract drivers, but take away from needed road safety messages, like lane shifts and closures.
And that message is not there. It can cause a very serious problem.
TxDOT doesn't think there's a problem with the sign's security measures, but they plan on reviewing them.
And see if possibly there's not more that we should be doing.
Interesting, right? They couldn't even
Campaign
figure out.
Signs and attack ads are
They couldn't even figure out where this came
par
from.
for the course in politics.
They couldn't even figure out who got in there and changed it, because of how long it would have took for a person to actually hack it. Interesting, right? That just shows up. Of all the things it could have said, it could have said Beavis and Butthead rule the world. It pops up Donald Trump as a shape-shifting lizard. Isn't that something? So, like I said, let's not get too far off on a tangent, but, you know. Now let's get into the meat and potatoes of, again, these are the things that are really in the Epstein files that they can't let out. Besides the trafficking, besides the money laundering, who belongs to who, who's involved with who, and what, where, and why. These details are also in there that they don't want everybody to know about. It's these little things that they don't want people to know about. That's the thing you have to remember. It's the details of where they come from. Those things. All right. Where was it? No, I got it. Which one was it now? I hate when I can't remember the name of it. Ah, here it is. No, this one. Okay.
I am Jeff Epstein's niece.
Let's get to the meat and potatoes of it.
My family masqueraded themselves as Jewish publicly, but behind closed doors, you know, at Passover dinners, when I was drugged, would admit, we are Satanists.
So, I am here with Anya Wick, Epstein's niece, and I've been watching Anya on TikTok. The link for her TikTok is in the description box, so please support Anya's work. And, you know, my partner Jen has been really, like, just amazed by your story as well. Harrowing, a lot of it. You know, there's components in there, for example, Bohemian Grove and other extreme things that I'm sure will fascinate the viewers. But before we get to all that stuff, you know, viewers, disclaimer, harrowing content warning. And because of restrictions on my channel, Anya, I've got to make sure you give us permission to publish this video and you waive your anonymity.
Of course, of course.
Okay, okay. So before we get then to what you've been through, do you want to just set the table a bit and let the viewers know what it was like for you growing up?
Yes, of course. So my name is Anya Wick, but at birth, I was Anya Beth Epstein. I was born in a house in Boulder. In 2015, I changed my name to Owen Theodore Epstein. In 2020, I changed it again to Anna Petrova. I had realized what I was surrounded by my entire life and thought I could hide from it. And I married a man named Wick, kept that name, and decided to start going public with my story just a few months ago. I had chemically driven amnesia the majority of my life. I am Jeff Epstein's niece, and I was raised as a sex slave. My father had me separated from my mother and twin brother and administered a substance that was designed to sever my memory. Every time I was taken to or family vacation or a trip to the cabin in the mountains, I was given this drug upon which everything would come flooding back. But when it wore off, so would the majority of my memories of it. And I would try to go to school, perform with my bands, be a regular person. But it broke me subconsciously. I knew something was very wrong, but I had internalized it on myself. And after a suicide attempt in 2015, I got away from the slavery I was in by taking testosterone, transitioning to male. I left Colorado in 2017 and started piecing together back memories that I had assumed were only nightmares in about 2020. That's the very short version of my story. And Sean, we could come at this from any angle, any point of time in my autobiography. I invite you to just ask what you are curious about.
So let's slow it down then and just go back to the beginning again. How old were you when you first realized that things weren't as they should be?
I had awareness of this in grade school. I remember my supposed 7th birthday. I was actually already 10 years old. Let me backtrack. My father and stepmother had a baby girl in 1991 who was raised by another family. In 1998, they assigned me her birth date on my birth certificate, which they waited 10 years to file, claiming my stepmother was my biological mother, and finally put me in school in the gifted program, telling me I was tall. I thought it was very strange that...
Talking about growing up confused, all the different things that you're told and finding out it's a lie. I can relate to that. Just growing up with all that different confusion and things like that.
My mother was so callous with me. I knew it wasn't normal that I wouldn't let her touch me on the shoulder. And I felt worlds away from my peers. I remember in the 1st grade sitting there journaling, I don't feel 7. I feel much older. I feel at once like there's something I'm missing that the rest of my classmates all understand, and that I've lived a lot more than them. I remember being on the schoolyard talking with my few friends about what would it be like if you were tortured and didn't know it? And like, what are you talking about? I got in trouble with my friend's mother for drawing stick figure at a slumber party. Of course, it shouldn't be the child's fault if they've had exposure to anything like that, but I took the blame and so did my parents. I always knew something was wrong, but because my regular life, my parents were upstanding citizens. My father was a divorce attorney. My mother was on the PTA. I thought I was the problem. I had some memories I retained, but because of the nature of the substance I was on, it made that reality so different than my regular life. I thought these were nightmares, that I was sick, and I didn't tell anybody.
Why do you think your family got involved in these things?
It goes back for generations. It goes back for generations. I remember my father confessing that my oldest brother is 8 years younger than him. Is cyclical. With men, especially when they stifle it, they repeat the patterns, which I don't see as an excuse because I'm not a. But of course, this happens with men. And power and pressure to conform is excellent as a tool for silencing people. They told me that we belonged to the cult of Baal, B-A''A''L. They told me this with consistency while I was being abused. Now, what you can look up about the cult of Baal, information that is publicly available, is that it is thousands of years old. It is a Phoenician satanic fertility cult. And publicly, it's supposed to have been eradicated. But to my knowledge and my experience, it is not. This is what people perceive the Illuminati to be. It is a group of elites that practices forced and uses these crimes to control people. They happen to have a huge reach over politics and entertainment. My great-grandfather, according to my father, was Walt Disney. Before he moved to the United States, his name was Artur Bick, Arturbicke. And his twin sister, who he had children with, who I am descended from, was named Minnie. That's where we get Mickey and Minnie Mouse. It's very cute, right? Except for when you consider the abuse that I suspect is still happening to children who go into the entertainment industry, children who are born into it. My father was abused by his parents, and I was raised going to these giant where I would meet other children who were put on television. I was raised getting taken to Bohemian Grove, where I was after a ceremonial corpse burning Alex Jones has talked about. And my memories of these circumstances are still somewhat fragmented. These assaults happened a couple times a month, and I'm blessed not to remember every detail. But my father was consistent in what he told me. It's hard for me to talk about. I want to just answer your questions honestly, as my answers align with what I was told and what I have experienced. Now, this is alleged. When birth certificates have been forged, it's not something I can immediately research myself. All I have to go on is what lies in my memory of who I have met and what I was told.
Okay, so I'm going to move it ahead just a little bit so she gets into more of the meat potatoes of things. And it's really because I want to play the video later on of when she gets into her real birth origins. As you saw, I showed the picture of, she's not going to get into it really detailed here as much as she will into the video, I think. But she's actually the twin sister to, or I should say, she's the twin of Shia LaBeouf, which, the actor Shia LaBeouf, he actually left Hollywood. People thought he just went crazy. No, it was because he witnessed things in Hollywood and decided to leave it alone. That's why his very last movie was also called Eagle Eye, because he knew that the order was watching him. And this is one of the reasons why, is because what his actual origin of his birth actually was. He's always been watched.
I think she enjoyed it, much like my stepmother did.
Move it up.
About what was it?
And they do love me. Forging these trauma bonds forges more loyalty. And 99 times out of 100, victims will choose being with other victims over trying to speak to eventually prevent there being more victims. And I'm talking to you because the children who are going through it right now, one day, are going to wonder why nobody cared enough to try to stop it, to try to say something. Now they'll either find me or they will choose to keep their mouths shut, because they will understand why, for the most part, victims of MKUltra choose loyalty over truth. That's why.
Anya, what?
And it allows them to maintain media control. The first thing you see when you walk into Steve and Kari's house is a giant poster of Vladimir Lenin. They boasted that one of my brothers is, in fact, the oldest son of the Queen of Jordan, where I have been. Now, that's just alleged, but if it's true, it could explain why Israel and Jordan are allies. And considering that, and considering my father's love for all things Russian, it makes it look as though all of these wars are just for show, designed to keep public perception off of this sphere of control and to keep money circulating through different industries.
So, Anya, why did you decide to start speaking out, and what challenges have you faced?
I decided to start speaking out because I don't want any children in my family to have to continue growing up.
I think I skipped too far ahead, but this is what I was trying to get to the part where she spoke more in detail about what's going on there. If I can find
people, the public, speculate on. And if you bring them up, I'm happy to talk about them. But
yeah, so I think the viewers would be very curious then about Jeffrey, and what's your view on his role in the apparatus?
My understanding is that I met him in Aspen in 2007, and that was a reintroduction. My father said, "Hey, remember your Uncle Jeffrey?" And Jeffrey said, "Hey, Anya, it's great to see you again." Jelaine was there. What they told me was that Jeffrey worked for Stephen. And as I've said, he's guilty for what he did to those teenage girls here in New York City and down in Florida and St. Andrews. But I do not believe he was in charge of orchestrating what has been going on in our family for generations.
Pretty much saying he was forced into doing this. And if he was forced into doing this, it correlates along the line of why people said that he was also an Israeli agent. Like, there's a clone of Epstein. And the clone of Epstein, the real Epstein was probably the Israeli agent, whereas this clone that was walking around doing things for the Order and the Illuminati was, had the reptilian drone, the reptilian draconian inside of him. That's what I'm starting to think now. Or I could even have the Order mixed around. It could be the real one had the draconian, and then the clone was the actual Israeli agent. It could be either one.
With my experiences, I believe he wanted to talk more about the other parties involved. And I know he didn't kill himself. I'm not sure whether they let him go and get plastic surgery and flee the country, or if they did, kill him. But I do believe he was a pawn, and that his story blew up in the media to keep people from looking beyond him. If Jeffrey was the one villain in charge of it, then, he's dead, it's all over, everything's good now. And that leaves my father free to continue 3-year-olds and running Viacom from behind a veil while his paralegal runs his divorce practice, as he bragged about to me growing up.
So you're saying that Jeffrey wasn't involved in the full-on occult practices. He was just part of a machine, and then they just used him to make an example out of?
He was involved in the full-on occult practices, but not necessarily of his own volition. I have memories of men being forced to assault me when they didn't want to. I remember one man, this brilliant comedic actor, actually his better dramatic work. My father's screaming at him, telling him to penetrate me, and he makes one thrust and backs away, and my father gets outraged and says, "You're going to come. You're going to come." And this poor man is crying throughout it. And I'm barely conscious. Jeffrey may have been involved in the full-on occult practices.
Again, viewer discretion is advised on this one. Viewer discretion is advised if this one is bothering you to even hear. That her own father was forcing another man to rape her.
But he's not one of the hardcore of this sickness where they are actually attracted to small children.
Yeah, Lady C mentioned that as well, about a hebephile or something versus. So, in terms of Maxwell, then, who do you think? What do you think her role was?
I think she enjoyed it, much like my stepmother did. I think she is as guilty of as Jeffrey was. But I didn't know her very well. I don't even remember a conversation with her. I remember seeing her. I think she got off on the power of it. I think with men who engage in hebephilia, it's more of a sickness that arises from their own abuse. Like my grandfather, my alleged grandfather, Walt's son, who worked for the CIA, allegedly faked his death to remove himself from my mother because he was so sickened by what he could not control doing to her. I contrast that with my stepmother, who delighted in abusing me and laughed at me when I was incapacitated by the drug they had me on and made fun of me drooling on myself, being unable to speak. I think with her and with Ghislaine, I'm certain they were abused as children themselves. But there's a different kind of psychopathy that grows within them where they get off on the power of it and abetting in these acts to please their partners. Now, Kari Epstein was more sexually attracted to me than she was to her husband, Stephen. But she did also do these things in order to stay in good graces with him. And that was more out of survival. Kari was a very broke cellist in her early adulthood with no familial support, whereas Ghislaine also comes from the aristocracy. She had access to her own funds independent of Jeffrey. So I can't speculate too much on what she gained from it out of psychopathic pleasure and sadism. A schadenfreude of sorts. But I'm not a doctor. She was not a large presence in my life. And that speculation on her personality is primarily based on what I know about my stepmother.
So would you say then that some of the techniques used on you would be classified under the MK Ultra program?
Yes. Absolutely.
Could you explain that? Could you explain that for viewers who are not familiar with MK Ultra?
Okay. These drugs were administered to me when I was an infant. Macro doses were given every single time I was assaulted. And I was kept on micro doses the rest of the time in my waking life to maintain some control, some separation from my peers. I actually didn't realize until very recently that I was kept on micro doses, that I was kept on a small dose in my regular waking life. Upon analysis of what would happen when I went on school trips away from Denver for a few days at a time, we would take trips to Washington, D.C. or New York or California. On those trips, after 3 or 4 days, I would actually start getting along with my classmates. And they'd be amazed. They'd say, "Wait, Anya, you're really cool and fun. And we like hanging out with you." And I would end up being the center of the group and not understand why suddenly I'm connecting socially. But then we'd go back home. I'd see my family again. And the next time at school or at synagogue, I'd feel in my own weird little bubble again. So I was put on these large doses designed to knock me out when I was assaulted. Small doses to keep me complacent the rest of the time. What this did essentially was sever my memory. Everything that happened to me, everything that was boasted about to me, that occurred on those large doses, was locked away in what I thought was a nightmare fantasy world. I was primarily unconscious for the physical assaults. And if I was awake, I was so high, I thought it was my own nightmares. This ensured I wasn't going to go telling anybody about it. This ensured I thought I was sick. You know, so when they paid a doctor to tell me that my PTSD responses, like jumping when my stepmother touched me, were bipolar, I believed that. I believed it was my fault. When I went to rehab in 2015 and was diagnosed with PTSD right off the bat, the doctors were frustrated with me because I couldn't tell them what traumatized me. I was beating my head against the wall, and all I had going on my head, I was stuck on this idea that if I were born male, I would be happier. Because my experience of womanhood, I knew subconsciously, was slavery. MK Ultra is the practice of creating slaves with a severed memory. Many of whom were my siblings, who I only got to see at family reunions, who I would rush home from school to watch on TV.
I hope you're enjoying the podcast. It's a word from my sponsor, Shopify. When I started this podcast, there were a lot of things that you do have hundreds of and
Me and are not the only twins. Most of us are separated.
Okay, so she covers up his name. So let me play that one as well. I know she covers up his name as well. But yeah, very, very dramatic and detailed things that she went through. It's difficult to, you know, if you have a human soul, it's difficult to listen to it.
Back.
Give me a fucking cigarette, Dad.
You're not gonna get shit until we do the fucking scene the way that I think is funny, or you ain't gonna get fucking nothing from it.
I'm doing you a favor by paying you to do my shit, right? Give me a fucking cigarette, Dad.
You're doing who a favor?
You. Who else is gonna give a fella a job?
Now that I have an even deeper understanding of complex trauma since then, as well as the various impacts and outcomes, it would seem to me the loosely based part is because the memories of his childhood were spotty, and he needed to fictionalize the glimpses between dissociative fugues, flashbacks, and strange recurring nightmares that seem all too real for comfort. As many of us who've suffered from childhood trauma experience, that we must piece together as we reach middle age and beyond, becoming the ages of those who were meant to love, support, and protect you, who failed drastically, sure is a real eye-opener. With this understanding, and while still putting the puzzle pieces of my childhood together, I'm apt to believe the most atrocious parts of this movie were reality, and the apparently normal and average moments in between were imagined. Because nobody remembers a random Tuesday, they remember extreme highs and lows, and generally it's the bad that leaves the bigger imprint. Formulating a structured and cohesive timeline when you had complex childhood trauma is not easy.
Now, real quick on that subject, how many of you actually remember when you were 3 years old? Don't lie. Put a 1 in the chat if you remember anything up to 3 years old and under. 5 is when most children have that real consciousness. I would say between the ages of, you can say 3 and up, you have that real consciousness. So you have like a first memory or something like that, right? But you don't remember anything between that age of 1 and 3, really. Does anybody ever notice that?
Let alone making it into a full-length feature film, or perhaps
like nobody here probably has a memory of when they were an actual infant, when they first came out the womb. You know what I'm saying?
mentioning it was loosely based was for his own safety.
My name is Anya, or Anna Wick, formerly Anna Petrova, formerly Owen Theodore Epstein, born Anya Beth Epstein on June 4th, 1988 in Boulder, Colorado, with my twin brother, Shia LaBeouf, to our father, Stephen Bruce Epstein, and our mother, Shayna Sadie LaBeouf, who separated us, forging our birth certificates as part of a ritualized, highly organized, generationally planned child trafficking cult that initiates 3-year-olds and deifies incest and inbreeding. I have not been in danger, just been incredibly anxious. However, the world deserves for the truth to belong to the public. This is for accountability. If for any reason I fail to appear on my interviews this weekend, you are more than welcome and encouraged to upload everything from your account. Thank you.
After posting that and agreeing to a few interviews, her very next video was basically her trying to say she's not in danger, but in a way that many considered to be confirmation that she may actually be in more danger than people had initially imagined.
I owe all of you an apology for letting
She was a lot more confident and assertive while making those initial allegations about her origin and upbringing, but in that follow-up video, apologizing to her family, she seemed quite fearful and upset, so it led people to believe she may have been threatened. People became even more concerned when that first video was suddenly taken down, but Anna posted another follow-up video stating that it was removed by the platform and reassuring people that she's safe, seemingly back to her more confident and assertive vibe.
First things first, I did not take that video down. TikTok did. Secondly, I'm fine. And I understand that because you know I'm telling the truth, it's going to be very difficult to convince you that I'm safe. But I realized this the other day, because my claims are true, no one's going to hurt me. It would only bring attention to what I've been saying, which they don't want to happen. Further, despite the fact that I brought a war about the children, most of my family just loves me and wants me to be okay. I have been exhausted and stressed. I've had my heart issues flare up. I spent 4 hours napping at my friend's house the other day after puking 3 times in the street. Sober. I've just been...
Blue Muse, what's going on? Yes, hi guys. Diamond Programming, and pretty sure they turned victims into diamonds. Highly profitable and vanishing evidence. Yes. Some slaves are living in a glided cage because they got leveled up. Very, very true. I do remember the murders of the diamond mines. And those kids that were enslaved digging for diamonds, and they were murdered behind. Yeah, very, very sad story. You're absolutely right, Blue Muse.
In my shelter in Brooklyn and working in Manhattan. This has taken a toll on my body and my health, but no one in my family wants to hurt me. I don't know what I can say to convince you of that, but I am very sorry for letting my anxiety let me think I was ever unsafe. Taking those jokes from my brother seriously. It's not fair to you. It's not, but like, I'm fine. I'm safe. I promise. First things.
She then doubles down by announcing that she has evidence files too large to host on any free web storage space, and asks for the public's help in finding the most cost-effective solution, to which many offered.
The data I want to share is in a file that is too large for Google Drive, Dropbox, Mega, or any of those. I'm not finding any good search results on where to host something this size. So, does anybody know how to code? The data.
So when you see him pause the video like this, it's because he's reading through the actual comments.
In her pinned videos, she talks about how she was able to escape her family in 2015, and that her believing her gender was an issue was convenient for them. And in 2019, they encouraged and paid for body modifications where they removed her chest and rendered her infertile.
I got out in 2015 after years of not being able to survive as my enslaved female self anymore. I decided to take testosterone to transition to male. Desexing myself completely devalued me for them, so they let me go without fuss, but not after encouraging the transition. Things were good for them if I believed that my gender was all that was wrong with me. So they paid for my double mastectomy. In 2019, my doctors encouraged me to have a hysterectomy. Oh, I'm exhausted. I was given a hysterectomy with oophorectomy, removal of the uterus and ovaries, and then a year later, I started getting my memories back. Quit the testosterone, went back on estrogen as soon as possible, and set myself on a mission to learn more of and tell the truth with my siblings. Came up with the idea for me to write a screenplay, autobiography. I believed it was going to be a mechanism to tell the truth, that it was not going to just be a work of fiction. Then when I got to New York to answer this court case, everyone told me to ignore it, whether for my best interest or theirs. It became apparent to me I had to choose between being with them now or telling the truth now. I am trying to live with my decision. It is incredibly painful, but I'm letting myself feel all the warmth pouring in from all over the world. It's amazing.
Okay, so we don't have to continue to get to that, but anyway, well, quickly show you guys that what Blue Muse is also talking about, because that is an actual thing there. Now, there's two videos here. I noticed it. There's one about ashes and actual human dead bodies into diamonds. I feel like these three here are very educational. Yeah. I think these three take the cake. Hopefully YouTube doesn't get me for this. If they do, you guys know where to find me on Twitch TV.
Speaking of bones, let's check out another intriguing body of research.
You might have heard the saying, diamonds are a girl's best friend. But what about diamonds are a body implant's best friend? Hello, I'm Dr. Kate. And whilst that may not be a phrase you've heard before, I'm here to show you that diamonds and body implants can in fact be best friends. Implants can be made for all parts of your body, from your teeth all the way to your bones. We can even use implants to fix your arms, legs, and face. These implants are usually made of metals like titanium, but sometimes the body does not like the titanium when the implant is put in. This is because the chemical compounds in titanium aren't able to properly interact with the tissue and bone in the body, meaning the implant can move around and sometimes has to be removed. While the solution may seem far-fetched, we're looking into how can diamonds be used to solve this problem. Come on, let me show you. Diamonds are a biomaterial, meaning they contain the same materials as we find inside the human body. Because of this, they are capable of integrating with the cells in our body. Part of this is because our bodies and diamonds both contain carbon. This means that when our body sees the diamond, it interprets it as a natural body material. When we use diamonds to coat implants, we can see that bones like it and that it reduces bacteria attaching to the implant. This is good because we want the implants to stay there forever. But how do we get the diamonds on the implants? It starts
She's smiling, saying this shit as if it's normal.
here at our lab, where we use our 3D printer to print the titanium biomedical implants. Once we have our implant, we need to choose the diamond powder to coat it in. We use detonation nanodiamonds to create this coating. Detonation nanodiamonds are made by little explosions of TNT.
Okay. Better little breakdown of this.
These are the cremated remains of a person, and they're going to be transformed into a diamond. We place the ashes inside of the crucible so that we're able to extract the carbon from those cremated remains. If you take a close look at the composition of the cremated remains, you'll see bone fragments. And that's because during the cremation process at 1400 to 1800 degrees Fahrenheit, bone just doesn't turn to dust. And it's through these fragments we're able to extract the carbon and create a diamond from your loved one's ashes. And if you notice on the bottom, there's a unique ID number here. And there's a different one for every new crucible. This ID number is tied to a person or pet's carbon, and will stay with them throughout their entire diamond journey along with their photo. So we just need about a half cup of ashes to actually create the diamond. You don't need to send in all of your loved one's cremated remains. This is what about a half cup looks like. It's about a tin's full. And if you don't have enough ashes, don't worry. You can combine hair, photos, flowers, pieces of clothing, love letters, anything dry and organic really. But give me a follow if you want to see the entire process of turning ashes into diamonds. And remember, this is about
Guys, trippy, isn't it? No, you're fine. No, you're fine. You're fine. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people that just got enlightened by that in the chat. I'm like 1,000% sure there's a lot of people that got enlightened by that in the chat, and it correlates with what our next video we were going to look at. Oh, so let me show this other one too. Because this is pretty crazy right here. So I'm thinking about how, the universe itself works, right? So how they say we're on different planes and shit, right? And I'm thinking about how our actual soul is actually made of just light in general. So this makes perfect sense to why our bones break down into actual diamonds and shit. That's making a whole lot of sense. That makes a whole lot of sense because the fact that we, even have the universe in our eyes, they say, right, in our pupils and shit like that. This is very enlightening to me. I need to do a little bit more digging into this myself.
क्या आपको पता है कि स्विट्जरलैंड में कुछ लोग अपनी
Okay, I don't know why that's in that language of all things, but this is pretty much a Switzerland pretty much creates diamonds from dead bodies as well. Similar to what you just saw the other gentleman was doing, breaking down the ashes once they're cremated and turning it into diamond. Like I said, this is very enlightening to me, and it makes me think now. Okay, so this is truly how they're harvesting the souls, also, because it wouldn't be just diamonds that they're making out of us as much as other things. Now I'm also thinking about what these blood diamonds really mean. You know what I mean? Also, why diamonds are also so thrown in your face and advertised now. That's what it's making me think of. Now it's making me think of the bigger reason why diamonds in general are just forced into your face. The overall bigger reason. And why they want you to have diamonds. It's all starting to make sense a little bit now. But like I said, it correlates along with, like I said, this next video here. Because, as I said to you in the beginning, we are entering into a different part of the saga in our lives. And this in particular is one of them because, well, I'll just bring up the news article. I'll bring up the news article, right? I didn't have to type much. CBS News. Harvard scientist believes interstellar comet could be an alien craft, and we should put all possibilities on the table. I don't know what's going to play now. Scientists are watching a newly discovered object in space, and most of them agree it's a comet, but not all of them. A Harvard scientist who believes he's seen proof of alien life before suspects this object may instead have alien origins. Professor A.V. Loeb said there are clear signs that the comet known as 3I Atlas could be an alien craft. We should put all possibilities on the table that it's a rock, a comet, or something else until we get the evidence that the data will tell us what it is, Loeb said in an interview with WBC-TV. Professor Loeb's team say the interstellar object is on an extremely unusual course for a comet, for a comet, one that will take it close to Venus, Mars, and Jupiter. Loeb said the object appears to be intelligently directed, and if it is alien, the world should prepare. This is blind date from a visitor.
Known as 31 Atlas could actually be an alien craft. Professor Avi Loeb and his team say the interstellar object is on an extremely unusual course for a comet that will take it close to Venus, Mars, and Jupiter. Researchers also believe that the chance of a space rock flying in this path is less than 0.005%. Loeb also says that object appears to be being, quote, intelligently directed, and if it is alien, the world should prepare.
I think that when we have a blind date from a visitor from another star, all bets are off. We shouldn't assume anything, and we should assess the risk given the data that we have. It's just like the Richter scale for assessing the risk from earthquakes. 0 would be a natural object like a comet. 10 would be an object that maneuvers as if it has an engine that is definitely technological. And then there should be some policy makers deciding how to respond to that.
Giving you something to think about, huh? Professor Loeb says the object will pass closest to the sun on October 29th when it will be blocked from the sun's view. You can watch my full conversation with him on the CBS News Boston YouTube page. David, Lisa?
Now, the crazy part is, as he's saying October, There's people saying that there's going to be an alien invasion possibly happening in November. I'm not making this up.
Okay, let's unpack this because, wow, we have a brand new visitor from beyond our solar system, and almost immediately. Okay, let's unpack this because, wow, we have a brand new visitor from beyond our solar system, and almost immediately the headlines are just screaming alien craft and, impending attack.
Yeah.
Really feels like we've seen this movie before, doesn't it?
It really does.
Because as of right now, Tuesday, July 29, 2025, the global community is absolutely buzzing about 3I Atlas. This colossal object was discovered just this month. July 1st, actually, by the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System, ATLAS. That's that crucial network of robotic telescopes, mainly down in Chile.
Right, the survey system.
Exactly. And almost immediately, the sensationalism just hit a fever pitch. Just yesterday, July 28th, an ex post from 15 News. You can actually find the ID if you look it up. It's 1349817060147818747 popped up.
Okay.
And it was citing a Daily Mail article, and the claim was, well, truly audacious. An alien craft poised to attack Earth in November 2025, and apparently it's even bigger than we thought.
Oh.
This is such a profoundly familiar pattern, isn't it? It echoes almost perfectly the media frenzy that surrounded One Oumuamua 8 years ago. Remember that? When we first encountered its peculiar shape and trajectory, and the world just immediately started talking about extraterrestrial origins.
Yeah, what's fascinating here is that these objects, they really are cosmic messengers. They give us these invaluable clues about other star systems, but their arrival often triggers this very human response, right? A blend of profound scientific wonder with, intense, sometimes even anxious speculation.
Right.
When we talk about interstellar objects, just to be clear, we're defining celestial bodies that are genuinely unbound by our sun's gravity. They're travelers, pure and simple, from other star systems, offering us this rare, often fleeting window into the broader cosmos. Think of them like samples, sort of tossed our way from distant galactic neighborhoods.
Like messages in bottles, almost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They reveal the dynamics of faraway stellar systems. How planets form, how objects get violently ejected, what kind of material actually exists out there beyond our immediate solar neighborhood.
Right.
And the very fact that we can now detect them, that marks significant milestones in what's really an emerging field of study, one that is rapidly advancing thanks to new technologies.
So what does all of this mean for you, our curious listener, as these, wild stories start swirling around? Our mission with this deep dive is really to provide a vital comparative study. We're going to dive deep into both One Oumuamua and this new behemoth 3I Atlas.
Okay.
We'll examine their precise physical characteristics, dissect how scientists are rigorously interpreting the data, scrutinize those often wild media narratives that have spun up around them, and explore their deeper cultural and philosophical significance. Our ultimate goal here is to cut through all the noise, really, to give you the tools to distinguish rigorous, evidence-based science from, frankly, exaggerated claims and pure speculation. It really highlights the crucial need for critical discernment in this hyper-connected digital age.
Absolutely critical.
And as we look to the future, with powerful, enigmatic visitors, will undoubtedly guide our future cosmic exploration. It'll profoundly shape how we view our place in the universe.
We're going to give you a shortcut, basically, to being well-informed, ensuring you understand the true science behind the spectacle and why critical thinking is, more important than ever. Okay, let's begin our journey back in time then, with the original cosmic scout, One Oumuamua. Its detection back on October 19th, 2017 was, an absolutely monumental moment in the history of astronomy.
Oh, definitely.
Like discovering that message in a bottle from across the cosmic ocean. It was spotted by the Pan-STARRS 1 telescope, which is perched majestically up on Haleakala, that massive dormant volcano on Maui in Hawaii. Beautiful spot.
Isn't it? And this telescope isn't just any old telescope. It's specifically designed for these wide field astronomical surveys. You can think of it like a cosmic motion detector.
A wide net.
Exactly. Constantly sweeping vast swaths of the sky, looking for transient objects, things that move or change against the static backdrop of stars rather than focusing intensely on one small point. It's uniquely suited to catch fleeting visitors like Oumuamua before they just vanish, like having thousands of eyes simultaneously watching for the faintest blip.
Yeah.
And it did just that. It found Oumuamua. And the name itself, it's Hawaiian for scout or messenger from afar, which is just perfect, isn't it?
Couldn't be better.
Because that's exactly what it was. The very first confirmed interstellar object ever. It truly marked a historic moment, definitively confirming that objects from other star systems really could penetrate our cosmic neighborhood.
And its characteristics were immediately peculiar. I mean, they raised eyebrows and sparked scientific debate right from day one. Initial observations estimated its length to be, well, staggering 200 to 300 meters. That's roughly the length of 2 or 3 football fields. Cosmic cigar, or yeah, a stretched out pencil tumbling through space. It was remarkably unlike any asteroid or comet we had ever observed from our own solar system.
Nothing like it.
Nothing. This unusual, highly elongated form was truly unique and immediately sparked questions. And adding to its strangeness was its rotation period, about 8.2 hours. This caused dramatic variations in its brightness as it spun and tumbled, well, erratically through space.
It's not a smooth spin.
Not at all. This wasn't a smooth, predictable rotation. It was complex, seemingly chaotic motion that further intrigued and frankly baffled astronomers trying to model its behavior.
That peculiar shape and spin alone were baffling enough. But then scientists looked at its trajectory. And that's where the real mystery began to deepen, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
At an incredible velocity, 26.3 kilometers, with an eccentricity of 1.2.
And that number, 1.2, is key.
Right. Explain that. Why is that so crucial?
Well, unlike objects born in our solar system, which are bound by the sun's gravity and follow elliptical paths like planets or asteroids.
Like circles or ovals.
Exactly. A hyperbolic orbit means an object has too much speed, too much energy to be gravitationally captured by the sun. An eccentricity greater than 1 means it's on an escape trajectory. It literally just slingshots in and then slingshots right back out.
So it's definitely not from around here.
Unequivocally, it confirmed its interstellar origin. It wasn't orbiting our sun. It was just a transient visitor passing through.
Okay. And what about what it was made of? Or looks like?
Well, spectroscopic analysis, that's how we study the chemical composition by looking at the light it reflects or absorbs.
Splitting the light like a prism.
Precisely. It revealed a distinct reddish hue. This color likely came from complex organic compounds on its surface. Think, tholins, maybe? Compounds that had been altered and reddened by exposure to cosmic rays over billions of years of interstellar travel.
Billions of years. Right. Wow. But here's the really crucial anomaly that deeply puzzled astronomers, right? There was no detectable coma.
Yes, that was the big one.
Usually when a comet gets close to the sun, the ice within it sublimates, turns directly into gas, and forms that fuzzy atmosphere, the coma, and often a visible tail.
The classic comet look.
Yeah. Oumuamua didn't have one.
Yeah?
Which meant it behaved more like a rocky asteroid than an icy comet.
Yeah.
Despite its bizarre non-gravitational acceleration, which I know we'll get into.
That's the crux of the mystery, yeah.
It made its closest approach to Earth at 0.25 astronomical units, about 23.5 million miles, on October 14th, 2017, just 5 days before its detection, actually.
Sure, we caught it on the way out.
Pretty much. And then it swiftly exited our solar system, heading toward the constellation Pegasus. So imagine, the first ever confirmed visitor from another star system, and it looks like a giant tumbling cigar, and it's doing things no known object should do.
And it's heading right towards our asses.
Its behavior just immediately raised way more questions than answers.
So if Oumuamua was indeed a nimble scout, then 3i Aidless is undoubtedly a leviathan. This new colossus was discovered very recently, as you said, July 1st, 2025, by the same ATLAS system,
All right.
making it only the third confirmed interstellar body we've ever found. After Oumuamua, and then 2i Borisov, which was another interstellar comet discovered back in 2019.
So the pace is picking up.
It really is. It's also known officially as C2025N1.
So I don't want all that gibberish, not gibberish, but I don't want all that to rattle your brain a little bit too much. We're going to get more into this shit Monday. I do have to get to bed. I have to be up at 4:30 in the damn morning. Okay, so I do have to get some rest. I have work and I have overtime tomorrow again, so I will be back on Monday. I'll make the announcement Monday. So I was going to make it this evening, but I figured I should wait. Well, actually, Yeah. I'll wait. I'll wait till Monday to make the announcement. Definitely join the Discord. I'll be making the announcement in the Discord as well. But I'll be making another announcement on YouTube as well. Might not even be in the form of a live, but it'll be, you'll see it. So, in closing for this evening, for now, moving forward, we're going to be breaking down a lot of what this shit is going to be within these next couple of months, because like I said, if it's any audience I need to be prepared, it's my audience. I need my audience to be very aware and prepared of what is going on and what's going to be coming in these next couple of months, and with these next, I want to say the next 5 years. As Pac said, it's going to be some shit that you're going to see that's going to make it hard to smile in the future.